Hello, my friends. Hello, hello. I am sitting here right on that time zone between Central Time and Mountain Time. So don't ask me what time it is, except I can tell you it's time to present to you some of that truckload of truth I got in there, right? Because God has opened the floodgate of truth since 1928. And I happen to have a truckload full of it. So as I go in this great country of the United States, I'm dispersing it from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, back and forth. Isn't that the truth? So today I would like to touch a very interesting topic. It's from the book of Job. Yeah. We read at the beginning, in the book of Job, we read that, let's see the counting. He had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household. And in verse 4 of chapter 1 it says, verse 2 says, 7 sons and 3 daughters, and that is giving an account before the animals. 7 sons and 3 daughters. That's in verse 2, and in verse 3 it gives an account about the animals, and verse 4 some other issues he was blessed with. So his household was great for sure, but what do you think what was the most important blessing to Job? What was the most important blessing to him out of all that wealth he acquired? What was the most important? Well, the most important blessing is very obvious as you read on in the story. The 7 sons and the 3 daughters were the most important. And of course, that is where his worries were centered about his 7 sons and 3 daughters. He offered up sacrifice when those children came together and did some feasting and some perhaps other things which even Job didn't want to know, or couldn't know. Sometimes it's best to stay out of the life of your children, because you ask for some information and then you will regret when you learn certain things about them. So Job was wise, besides being incredible faithful, but he didn't know according to the scriptures, but he offered up sacrifice for the unknown. And that is if they have sinned against God in their hearts, which I'm sure he had a reason to believe that. It wasn't just Job thinking evil about his own children. I don't think so. And how many times we get that slap in the face today when we assume something about our children or children's companions. So Job had a reason why he was thinking and acting out such fashion. And lo behold, at the first strike of the devil, he loses. Verse 13, and there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sabaeans fell upon them and took them away. They have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. And while he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven, and had burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell upon the camels and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, verse 18, I am, thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house, and behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. So that is the time when Job finally arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped God. So, of course, the most severe losses came to Job when, after the report came about the death of his children. Very interestingly, after all the trials, after all the difficulties, all the sufferings, and one interesting thing, we do not know how long this took place in Job's life. We do not know that, but it wasn't 3 days and 3 nights. It wasn't just a couple of months, because his friends came from far away to comfort him, although they were miserable comforters. So this could have taken place several months before the restoration took place. And the dialogue between Job and God was not just limited to a short time while his friends were present. So at the end of the book of Job, it gives a list, a very precise account, because God makes a statement at the end of the book of Job, because of the faithfulness of Job and basically passing the test. Although we can see between chapter 1 and chapter 42 that Job was not nearly as perfect as he thought he was, but he wasn't. But the test was not permitted to challenge his perfectness. The test was about his faith. And Satan was permitted to challenge his faith, not his perfectness. He was far from being a perfect man. Chapter 42, verse 10. And the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. That means something here, by the way. He prayed for his friends because God instructed him to pray for his friends. Not because he was so holy. God asked him, if you read the previous verses, God instructed him, your friends were displeasing me and they are wicked. You better pray for them in order to save them. After that, Job prayed for them. So, and the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. Also, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. The first thing what should come to our mind, that twice as much, that has to be 14 sons, 6 daughters, and then doubling the animals. But look what happens. Look what happens. God says he gave Job twice as much. Okay? So here we are. Verse 12. So the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning. For he had, okay, the list goes now backwards. Remember at the beginning of Job, the list in verse 2 started out with the sons and daughters, 7 sons, 3 daughters, and then came the animals. Now in verse 12 of chapter 42, it gives an account that so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, double of the 7,000 he started out with. Yeah, that is correct. 6,000 camels, double of the beginning, and 1,000 yoke of oxen instead of 500, what he had before, and 1,000 she asses instead of the 500 he had before in verse 3. Okay, so the animals are doubled in verse 12 of chapter 42. But now we come to verse 13. Very interesting. Listen to this. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters. Wow. Let's read chapter 1, verse 2. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. Chapter 1, verse 2. Okay? Chapter 42, verse 10. And the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. Also, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Verse 13. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters. Chapter 1, verse 2. There were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. No matter how many times I read this, God doesn't know how to count? Come on now. The most important thing God allowed the devil to take away, he's giving the same, yet he says he gave double of everything? What's wrong? What's wrong with that picture? Is the Bible limping one way or another? Come on now, God. Don't you know the most important thing to a loving father is about children, not about goats and camels and earrings of gold and servants and household? Come on. Did not you create us to be such loving fathers as what we are. Our love is not all about wealth and finances and status quo, but it's about family, it's about children. How can you say, Lord, you have doubled the children of Job? You have doubled, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. You have doubled the possessions, all his possessions. Okay, let me read it exactly because I get a little bit carried away here. Chapter 42, verse 10. Also, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Okay? So it doesn't say twice as much animals. It doesn't say twice as much wealth. It says twice as much. Lord, how can you say that when the most important thing, Job's children after the trial, no matter how I go back and forth, it's the same. It's the same. According to verse 13. But here we got a truckload full of truth, brethren. We got to have some answers here. Is this really something God has overlooked? Oh, I doubled Job's she-asses and camels and goats and all that stuff, and the earrings of gold and yada yada yada. But God forgot about the children, didn't he? No, he did not. He did not. Wow, this is an incredible truth. Brethren, think about that. How can God double Job's children? How can God double them if he gives him 7 sons and 3 daughters? What he already had before. Yeah, God gives and God takes away, but God also states that Job got double after the trial. So how can this be true? How can this be accomplished? Is there anything impossible to God? Is God the God of the living or a God of the dead? Yeah, God is the God of the living, my brethren. So evidently, the only logical conclusion, the only logical answer, the only fitting to the character of God, to his beauty, to his loving kindness, to his merciful forgiveness, is by giving Job back all his children, even those who died under these terrible circumstances during the tornado, when what Satan caused to come and to destroy the children of Job. That is the only way, that is the only possible way this can be done. That is the only possible way we can have this final conclusion, how God has doubled all what Job had, including his children.